Today I'm going to rebuild some locomotives that I did about 30 years ago. And I did these, and back then my workbench did not have a lot of tools. What I've got here are two blue box GP35s, and what I had done was I did torpedo tube tops and took off the dynamic brakes, and then I beefed up the fuel tanks so they would be C&W GP35s. Then I took two blue box SD45s. I made the brake wheel cutout, put a brake wheel in, and put some details on. I bent the grab irons from piano wire. Put a little grab iron that got lift rings. These are, and so they're hand painted with scale coat paint. And back in those days, the way I did it was I primered them with Rust-Oleum Gray Auto Primer, and then I used a Silver Fox brush to paint them. They look pretty good, I have to say. They're pretty decent, considering I did them so long ago. I'm not going to change anything about the shells. They're going to stay. But I want to take a look at what was it that I did under the hood back in those days. So let's take a look under the hood. All right. Let's take a look at this one first. Let's get in close on this guy. All right, now this would be an example of one in the early days of me using that Mag 1 grease, the red lithium brake grease. As you can see, there it is right there, and it is still good to go. All four of these are operational. They haven't been run for a long time, so they're a little they work, but they've just been sitting for a while. Now, as you can see here, there's also this film coating over everything. Back in those days, after I was done putting them together and soldering, I sprayed on what is called slip plate, and this is a conductive graphite coating, and it totally prevents corrosion. And it's a lubricant, but it totally prevents corrosion. And as you can see, I put a ton of incandescent bulbs. This one had a nose light, and it had a front light, and even had a rear light. And the way I did it back then was, as you can see, I put a screw right here, then I soldered to it, this little brass screw, I soldered to it. That's how I got the black wire. And I didn't color code stuff. I used whatever wire I had, and I did it in the classic method. I soldered across the top. The motor mounts look not good. They look and they feel a little hard. Let's check the other one. Same thing. This one, these motor mounts, I'm guessing I used shoe glue. The motor mount's totally broken off on one side, and I must use shoe glue to hold that in there. And this is probably about 1990 that I did this. Same thing again, soldered. This one, I didn't put any lights in it. And I'd sprayed that graphite coating all over. And then, same with the GP35s. Same kind of setup. This one's got one light. The lights all work. Amazingly. They still all work. Here's another one. It's got all that graphite on it. Motor mounts look good on this one. They look decent on this other one. But today, we're going to go ahead and break these down, clean them all up, and bring them up to new standard. Go ahead and isolate the motors, fix the motor mounts, clean them up, and should be ready to roll again. And that's pretty good, actually. When we open them up, we're going to find out, as I have with all the other ones that I've done like this, that red lithium stands the test of 30 years. And all 4 of these were in storage for a long time, and for many years in a storage garage that had no climate control, where temperatures would be like -20 in the wintertime. And I don't know, they spent roughly almost 20 years out there. So we're going to see how they've held up. And so far they're looking pretty good. I tested them on the track they run, and we're going to go ahead and, in fact, I'll just put one on for you right now. Let's put this SD45 on here. There's a lot of stuff on here bent from piano wire. And if you know how hard that is to do, I did that with a pliers, an old needle nose pliers. Not been cleaned or touched, subject to years of idle storage, extreme temperatures. Good to go. Well, now we're gonna clean it up and make it better.